Howdy fam. So, we're kind of taking a different route with some of the videos that we're going to be doing. Whenever we first started, really we were just kind of having fun, just kind of showing people, hey, this is what we're doing. We're fun, bougie people, right? Not bougie, but, you know, just fun people who are living life. And we wanted to share that with all of our family and friends. And of course, my students, who eventually will find my YouTube channel and follow just because they always want to know what their teachers are like outside of school. But the more that I thought about the social media platform and kind of like, I guess, the purpose of it, I really started getting more convicted of if this is something that more so I am passionate about doing. If that's something I'm passionate about, then I need to use it for the purpose of why I'm here on earth, which is to glorify Christ. And especially if my students watch this, how cool would that be to be like, hey, yeah, I'm your teacher here, but this is really what my whole purpose and focus is. And I tell my students all the time, I'm not perfect, and I will say this, probably besides my husband and my close family, my students see the worst of me and they see the best of me. Especially this pregnancy, there have been times that I've come in with tears just because I get a call about information and news that I can't really comprehend. There have been times that I'll show them pictures of the baby, you know, and they're rejoicing with me. So I'm thankful for that role as a teacher because it really shows that how human I am. It humbles me a whole bunch because I'm always in the reflective state of, should I have said that? Should I have done that? You know? And, you know, I'm going to be honest, there have been times in my teacher career where I've said, hey, I'm so sorry. I was in the wrong. I messed up. But it's also teaching them that even adults, always adults will make mistakes too. But going back to kind of what I was saying earlier, we're kind of changing the route a little bit of our social media platform, the purpose of it. Our purpose is really just going to be, sometimes it will be sharing things that are going on in our life, but it's going to be more focused about the teachable moments that we are learning through tough moments that we're going through. Because I think social media is great, but I do think that there is this false, misleading perspective, especially for a lot of these young kids, thinking that everyone's life on social media and on these vlogs, their life is perfect, their life is grand, they have all this money, right? And in reality, there are real people that struggle with real things. And I don't want our platform to be another one of those. I want it to be a platform that people can come to and they're like, hey, these people are actually showing you the crappy part of their life. You know, they're showing you, they're talking about the tough moments that they went through and how they got through that. Now, yes, it's going to be Christian based. It's going to be Jesus focused because that is how we get through things. That is the only way that we can get through things. And if you're all about that, awesome. If you're not, maybe just keep watching and maybe you'll be all about that, right? But that's kind of our focus here. So today we're going to kind of start off with talking about my pregnancy, which, yes, it's been a while since I've done a video, but I am pregnant and I'm pumping. Pumping? No, I'm bumping. Oh my God. Okay, so I'm bumping. I mean, I am pumping blood. I'm getting off track. I do this a lot. Okay. But I'm bumping. And I also lost track of what I was saying because of pregnancy brain. I do this all the time. What was I saying?
That you were pumping.
No, before that.
That you were bumping.
Oh, great. Great. I think it was like teachable moments, wasn't it? Yeah, with our pregnancy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not going to go into all the details. That will come later on whenever we get a little bit more details about our situation because we're still in the process of the pregnancy, obviously. My baby,
Still figuring it out.
My baby, which is a boy, his name is Rowdy Randall Richardson. His middle name is named after my daddy. But he's coming in July, so we still have a good ways to go but there's still a lot more that we're having to kind of maneuver through to figure out, you know, I guess what's going on. But this pregnancy has been tough, which a lot of pregnancies are. There's so many women that have babies, and so many like women that I call superheroes, because I'm like, how did you teach when you were pregnant? How did you, you know, handle another child when you were pregnant? How did you do this and never complain? Because I feel like I'm always like, I'm hurting, my back's hurting, you know, all of these different things. So women, moms, you're superheroes. Just know that. And I am now kind of really realizing that through this pregnancy. But y'all are awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. And then husbands, you're awesome as well, because you're the supportive person that keeps your wife in like sane, right? So kudos to you.
You were never sane to begin with. I'm sorry.
You're gonna make my hormones go cray cray.
Yeah.
Okay, so anywho, this pregnancy has been tough. Just from the beginning, you know, the nausea was strong, but also we had been trying to have a kid for, it was a while to us. Now, some people, it takes years and years and years, and that's like, you know, a year to us, or not a year, like a decade to us. But, you know, we have tried for a couple years, and it just wasn't happening on my timeline. And I am very much a person who's like, I have a time, I have a plan, this is when I want it, right? And even though God has taught me multiple times in my life that, Cassidy, you're not in control, stop trying to be in control. He's taught me that, but I still don't listen, okay? Well, he taught me again through this pregnancy, because we had gotten to the point where we had tried to almost become, I feel like, I don't want to say like God, but we really did. We idolized our own plan.
Yeah.
Which is making your plan.
You had a plan where it was like, in this period of time, we had to get pregnant.
Yeah.
So that the baby would come at this period of time, and then it would work out with our schedule.
Yes, that is true. I didn't think about that.
And like, it was to a regimen almost.
Yeah. And that is not healthy for a marriage at all. But I did try to plan my I guess the delivery to be in the summer, so I wouldn't miss school. What's so funny is I'm actually gonna miss school this time, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting slapped on the wrist, right? Like you knew better.
You ain't getting slapped on the wrist, you getting slapped on the forehead.
I'm saying slapped on the wrist. I'm probably getting slapped on the forehead. But anywho, so it's just funny how, you know, God is gonna make his will happen the way his will is to occur. And we're just going to learn the hard way. And I'm learning the hard way. You know, you either accept his will from the original beginning, and sometimes, you know, it's just easier for you, or like me, and you fight his will because you still think your plan is better, and you idolize your plan, and you end up learning the hard way. And I'm going to learn the hard way, but you know what? I'm thankful for it, because I need to. I'm stubborn. And sometimes I need to be put in my place. But this pregnancy, you know, has just been challenging in a lot of ways. And like I said, we'll talk on that later. I know a few people kind of know what we've been going through, and we have a lot of prayer warriors. But with me wanting to like have this certain plan in mind, we had honestly gotten to the point where we had gone and we were like, hey, we're not able to have a kid at this point. Like we've tried, and it's just not happening. And so much to the point that my doctor was about to prescribe like a medicine to kind of kickstart some things to help us have a child easier. And that night after we had left the appointment, or that day, I had a gut feeling. I was like, Ashton, I said, I really want to get a pregnancy test, and I want to check. I said, I know I'm probably not, because I just went to the doctor, right? And they would have said it, right? Even though they didn't check any, like my levels, of course they wouldn't, because I said I wasn't. But I was like, deep down, I think I'm pregnant, and I want to just make sure before I take the pill. But we took a pregnancy test, and I actually ended up being positive. And I think it was at like 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night. Wasn't it really late?
You took 2 the first night.
Yeah, I took 2, but it was extremely late. And
they both came back
They both came back positive. And in my mind, I was like, this does not make sense. Like, this is a joke. like I honestly thought that I had gotten like some tests that were like messed up, or like I gotten a false positive, because this is my first time ever seeing a pregnancy test that had a positive. But I was like, this is not right. This cannot be it. So I called my mother because she always is the person I call whenever something like this happens. And my mama is someone who goes to bed early, okay? So whenever I called her, she was like, huh? And you could tell she had just woken up.
Asleep. Yeah.
And I said, Mom, I'm so confused. I said, I got a positive pregnancy test, but I literally went to the doctor today, and like they didn't say anything, because I just thought that sometimes if you go to the doctor, like blood work, I thought they could tell, because I think they did take my blood work that day, but it wasn't for HCG levels. It was just
they
blood
didn't
work.
test you for pregnancy that day.
Yeah. So, anywho, and I was kind of ignorant on that part, but my mom was like, oh, you tested positive? Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. You're probably fine. And then we talked a little bit, and then she hung up. And I was like, oh. I said,
Went right back to sleep.
And then she went right back to
I don't think
sleep.
she remembered that conversation.
Yeah, because the next morning I talked to her, and she was like, wait, did you say this last night? And I said, yeah. She's like, oh my gosh. So it really resonated with her. But I will say at that point, yeah. But I will say, and I'm not going to go into like all the detail, but, we did have to go through, multiple testing, because my HCG levels, which, if you were a pregnant woman at one point, you know what this is. My HCG levels were not showing progression. So I had...
Well, they were showing progression.
But not enough.
Yeah.
Not the rate that the doctors wanted it to show.
Yeah.
So whenever I had gotten a couple results back, they were like, hey, you might have an ectopic pregnancy. Like, they literally said that. So whenever I heard that, I was like, oh, so this is not even going to be a successful pregnancy at this point. So that whole week, I think it was a week, but it could have been like a day or two. But until the time that I had to get tested again, that test, they said, would prove if I had ectopic or not, because it had to be at a certain level at that point. So that time frame of the waiting was extremely difficult for me. And I remember, because Ashton was working, but I remember my mom, she drove me to the appointment that day. And I just remember after I had gotten the blood work done, I had prayed a lot prior to that. I had prayed for peace. I had prayed for not my will, which is funny. I'd actually prayed that whatever happened, the baby was healthy. And whatever happened is a sign that God's just protecting me, right? So I had finally gotten to the point mentally, and I feel like spiritually too, that I was okay. Like, obviously I wouldn't be okay. Like, I would still cry and be in a lot of, sorrow and pain after that if I did got that negative result, right?
You can still have sadness and be content in the moment, I feel like.
Yeah, and I agree with that, because there's a peace there, right? And I had that peace. Like, I honestly felt okay with what was going to happen. Like, yes, I was scared and I was nervous, but I was content with the circumstance. And we had gotten the results, because I get my results virtually through an app. And I remember the message popping up that your test results are available. And my mom was driving. And all of a sudden, I look. And I knew I already had the number in my mind of what I needed to have. And all of a sudden I see it. And I just remember I started crying immediately. And I looked at my mom and I said, I'm okay. My numbers actually, I think, tripled. They doubled at that point. I don't have twins. I only have one.
They were a lot more than what
they were higher than what they were supposed to be. They were higher than the number that the nurses said, hey, this is what you're shooting for. They were higher than that. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's good. He's okay. Or I didn't know he was a boy at that point, but I was like, the baby's okay. And my mom and I, like, we were driving safely, so don't freak out.
Oh,
but
yeah, her mama drives slow.
Yeah, but we were both crying, hysterically, because we were just like, we were expecting, either circumstance. And I usually always expect the worst to prepare for it.
Yeah, prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
But whenever we saw that, I was just like, wow, like, I said, thank you, God, for allowing that baby to be okay in this moment and for that level to be good. I said, but it also taught me that throughout this entire pregnancy, I still need to rely on that contentment in the circumstance. And I will say this pregnancy has brought information in. It's brought new, medical findings in that, I didn't know that I had. And like I said, I'll speak on that later. But I'm still having that peace, that surpassing peace of this is our circumstance right now, but I'm content in it and I'm okay with it. So I really think that I went through that moment of just like, severe anxiety and severe worry. But then I got to that place where I just was like, it's not helping me to have those emotions. Mm-hmm. And I eventually let it go, like, let go, let God, and I was content with it. And I think ever since then, even though there's been like times where I boo-hooed because I found out something, I still felt like I've been content for the most part in those circumstances.
Yeah.
And how do you think you've been feeling about that? Because that was my own personal part.
So as a husband, it is never something that you want to hear that something is going on and you can't fix it. You have to rely on somebody else to fix it. And that's not something that sits well with guys. Because a lot of guys, like, if there's a problem, we want to have a solution and we want to do the solution as soon as possible to fix the problem. Because we don't want you to go through anything. And then whenever it gets to the point where it's like, hey, we've got to be able to take a step back and know and trust that God's going to do what God wants to do, and having to be okay with that. That's a hard thing.
Yeah.
It's a hard lesson because, like, for me, sitting there watching the fact of, like, we were going through this, we weren't getting pregnant. All of a sudden, we got pregnant. And then the next week, it was, hey, it's not looking good. You might end up losing the baby. That whirlwind in that week and I'm usually good with stress.
You are.
Normally.
Yeah.
I think I broke like 4 doors in the house, slamming doors, throwing crap.
Did you really?
Yeah, I fixed all of them. Yeah. Yeah, it was rough. You figure out you got anger issues real quick. But no, being on the back end of that situation and learning, like, yes, we are supposed to be there to protect and to serve our spouse, no matter what. But there's some things that we can't do as guys. We have to have the faith and know that God is going to be able to step in and do what he needs to do. And then I just have to be there and try to be the best support system that I can.
And you have been. You've been a really good support system. And I really think that's what it all stems down to, is like we both, like, you come from the protective side and I come just from being, like, I like to have things in my control. And, when you're sick, you can take medicine and get better, whenever you have a broke leg, you just have to heal and, to do physical therapy, and sometimes you get better. But I understand now why people say whenever you have a kid, like, you have that unconditional love, but you also have to just truly trust in the Lord that God's going to take care of them. Because even being pregnant, like, I don't even have Rowdy in my arms yet, but with just being pregnant, I cannot control the development of my baby. Yeah, I mean, yes, I can take my vitamins and I can eat healthy and, do all of those things. But at the end of the day, God forms my baby. And he knows Rowdy by name. And we just have to trust that and know that God is the ultimate parent, and we're the parents that are blessed. I'm crying already because my hormones.
God is loaning his child to us
Yes.
for us to train him up to follow him.
And that's such a beautiful gift to have.
Yes.
Like, it's such a beautiful gift to have. And I'm thankful for that, you know.
But that's a hard thing to come to terms with.
Yeah, because you have to let God use your child for what he or she is meant for. And I think that's probably been the prayer that I've prayed the most, is just, I know people are like, why'd you name your kid Rowdy? You gonna make him rowdy. He already rowdy, okay? He jumping in my belly all the time. But
He will not.
I've
sit
always
still.
said, I'm calling him rowdy because I want him to be rowdy for the Lord. You know, I want him to come into this world and to be so strong in his faith that nothing can shake him. You know, I used to have my youth pastor, who's actually now my pastor and my boss. He used to say, I always want you to be a better Christian, better believer than I was. And I was like, what? Like, I did not understand that when I was youth. I was like, what are you talking about? You want me to be better than you? Don't you want to get better too? You know, all of those things. But now, you know, as a parent, I'm like, oh my gosh, please make Rowdy better than both of us. Because, you know, whenever you have the flaws, whenever you think about what, you know, you've done and what you struggle with on a daily basis, you're like, man, I don't want my kid to struggle with that. I mean, yes, we want our kids to have struggles because that, you know, it produces perseverance and endurance and faith and in trusting God. But at the end of the day, you want your kid to be a better child of God than we were, than we are. Mm-hmm. So I'm praying that, and I'm praying that God uses Rowdy, but I also have to understand what comes with that prayer. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people have prayed that prayer, and, you know, like, I think of, there have been times where that child always did not make it, but that child living on earth for that short time made such a difference. You know, where, like, oh God, whew, or children becoming missionaries, and then, you know, maybe and going away from your family. Like, I'm praying for God to use this kid, but I don't know what he's going to use him for. And that requires trust, and it requires faith, and it requires obedience. But I think the thing that God is teaching me a lot right now, and what he taught me a lot at the beginning of this pregnancy is, and we talked about this before, we have to be obedient and faithful in the small things. So eventually, when those big moments come, when those big things come, we're ready to be obedient and faithful then, because we've prepared for that. So this is just a little one, like an intro video. That is not even an intro. It's just like the first video of our teachable moments and our tough moments of life. And I hope our vulnerability is accepted well, because we are being vulnerable with y'all. And I am being vulnerable knowing that even my students could watch this and they're going to see Miss Richardson cry. But it's okay. Because at the end of the day, this is what we're called to do. We're called to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And with this with this social media world that we live in, this is just a way that we can do it and make it, you know, easier. You have anything else to add? I have to go to the bathroom again, so I'm going to leave, but look at my Hydro Jug. Isn't it cute? It screams Rowdy's mom. Okay, I'm done. Goodbye.
So I guess to sum up the video, have faith and trust through everything. Be faithful with a little so that God can trust you with a lot. And yeah, y'all have a great day.